it went way beyond this is a one-off moment of satire. But when I look at it in a nutshell, it was all disempowering for everyone that was involved. And I felt like I took the brunt of it, and we're going to show that everything you do is all going wrong, and when you go to America, it's not right. So there was a personal sort of bullying vendetta going on. But the line that crossed, unfortunately, which was an unconscious thing for Lee, was that you put the black rubber mask on. That's on you, my man.
Craig David, rise, fall, rise again. There's a silence that comes when the world stops listening. The kind that turns louder than applause ever did. A man sits alone in a Miami apartment. The sunlight spills through glass, but it doesn't warm him. The trophies on the shelf are polished, but they don't speak. He built a life out of rhythm and words. Now all he is the echo of what used to be. He remembers the noise, the cameras, the crowds, the laughter that turned sideways. He remembers being 20, unstoppable, untouchable, and then suddenly forgotten. This is a story of Craig David, the rise, the fall, and rise again. Act 1, Southampton roots. Before the headlines and the high notes, there was the Holyrood estate. Rows of council flats pressed against the cold south coast wind. Inside one of them, a boy turned out the noise of the city with an old cassette player and a head full of dreams. His mum worked hard. His dad played bass in a local reggae band. Music wasn't just background, it was oxygen. Craig watched his father play and thought, that's what freedom looks like. At school, he scribbled lyrics in the margins of his exercise books, built beats on borrowed decks, and found confidence behind the microphone at local youth clubs.
DJing for me played a massive part in just my whole psyche of how I interpret music. Because growing up as a UK DJ, my interpretation of R&B and hip hop from America was very different from someone who lives in Harlem or in the Bronx. So I was take what I wanted from it, and then go onto the decks and do my thing.
He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing belonging, a sound that made sense of everything he felt. When garage music began to rise from the London basements in the mid-90s, Craig heard something that matched his heartbeat. Fast, raw, alive. He started showing up at various pirate radio stations, spitting verses, singing hooks, earning nods from older DJs who saw that spark in him. The kid from Southampton had found his lane. Act 2, the rise. Then came the night that changed everything. A small recording studio, barely more than 2 rooms and a dream. The Artful Dodger laid down a track called Rewind. They needed a hook, something pure, something unforgettable. Craig stepped up to the mic, sang the words in one clean take. When the crowd heard it, Britain's underground scene caught fire. Suddenly, that same voice was everywhere. Clubs, radio, TV, a new sound that felt completely British. Slick R&B swagger over garage beats, delivered by a teenager with charm and heart. Record labels came calling, and at 19 years of age, he signed the deal that would change his life. Born to Do It hit the shelves in the year 2000, and by the end of the year, it had sold millions, 8 million copies to be exact. Critics called it the arrival of UK R&B. Fans called it the soundtrack to their roof. Every track felt like a memory in motion. Fill Me In, 7 Days, Walking Away. They weren't just songs, they were conversations set to melody. He was nominated for Grammys, he performed on American talk shows, and he carried the pride of a new generation of British artists on that global stage. He stayed humble through it all. While others chased attention, Craig chased perfection. Every note, every detail, rehearsed until it shone. But even perfection can't protect you from perception. Success paints a target as easily as it paints a crown. And fame in Britain has a habit of turning warmth into cynicism. For a while, he didn't really notice the shift. Then quietly, it began. Act 3, the fall. Fame changes shape when people stop seeing you as a person. At first, the interviews were kind, then the jokes started to creep in. A late night comedy show put on a rubber mask, mimicked his voice, and turned the name Craig David into a punchline.
Guys, let's get a picture of you. How are you?
Behind me, and there you go, Kez. And get my career, you know, to lift them both up and ask for a rewind, you know, do the little spoodle and the deedle and the...
The sketch caught on. Crowds repeated the catchphrases over and over again. Craig David. Strangers shouted him in the street. Craig David. He smiled for it all in public, but inside it cut deep. It wasn't satire, it was surrender. A culture that had once lifted him up was now laughing at the same accent, the same soul that had made it proud.
Now, unfortunately, in the UK, there was a comedian who made a skit about him, and it sort of like ruined how he saw himself, and also kind of ruined how other people started to see him. They were taking him as a joke.
The press stopped calling about the music, and when they did call, it was to ask about The Mask and Craig David.
It was impounded by becoming ridiculed on TV, which was just straight bullying, that for me it was like, okay, I have to work through this, and my leaving to go to Miami, and because of that show in particular, it gave a okay for people to feel that they could continue the bullying, but without knowing, and that normalized it, and it led me into a spiral of depression.
His next albums sold modestly. Reviews spoke about image on the songs. Every headline seemed to begin with the same cruel word, former. He could have lashed out. Instead, he went quiet. Packed up the awards, the memories, and left the country that had once sung his name. Miami offered sun and a place for him to get away from the bullshit. He rented a flat, set up a small studio, and let the ocean replace the applause.
I'm going all the way to Miami, and I'm telling this story to all the publications that, oh, I went there because it's like the fast cars and the women. It was a great story to tell, and I carried that on with, let's get the body in a certain way so I can really act the part, become the part. But deep down, it was just, how far can I get away from all of this?
For the first time since he was a boy, there was no schedule, no expectation, just a man and the music that had always been there, waiting patiently for him to listen again. The quiet was strange at first, then healing. He trained, he swam, he prayed. He rediscovered discipline without pressure, and he realised something vital. You can't control how people see you, only who you choose to be when they're not looking. All right, people, Terry Stone here. You know me, I like my sport, I like a good night out, and I love doing it in style. Now, if you're a fan of the darts, and let's face it, who isn't, then you'll know the biggest event of the year is the World's Darts Championship. This year, Wild Crest Events, yeah, the name you can trust for first-class hospitality, are the official VIP hospitality providers for the Darts Championship. So if you fancy watching the world's best darts players up close, with a glass of fizz in your hand, and the best seats in the house, then Wild Crest have got you covered. It's the perfect night out for mates, corporate guests, or anyone who just loves having a good time. So don't hang about, because the tickets are going fast. Make sure you head over to wildcrestevents.com right now and book your World's Darts Championship VIP experience. You don't want to be watching this one from your sofa. Wild Crest Events, where unforgettable experiences happen. See you all at Ali Pali. Act 4, the rebuild. Out of that solitude came a new rhythm. He began performing small DJ sets in his living room with him singing, mixing records, laying beats in real time. And he came up with a name. He called it TS5, the number of his Miami apartment building. It was casual, joyful, free. What started as a private release became a stream, became a party, became a movement. Slowly, word travelled back across the Atlantic. Clips surfaced online. Craig David, older, calmer, still flawless on the mic. People who had grown up with Born to Do It shared the videos in disbelief. Younger fans discovered him for the first time, without the parody, without the baggage, just a voice. Then came the moment. Radio 1 Extra invited him in for a freestyle. He stepped to the mic and in a few minutes erased 15 years of doubt. That video spread faster than his first single ever did. Overnight, the narrative changed. The UK didn't just remember Craig David, it discovered him. From that spark came albums like Following My Intuition and The Time Is Now. Both albums went platinum, festivals booked him, TS5 grew from a living room set into an Ibiza headline act. He was no longer chasing the charts, he was commanding them again. But this time, felt different. No entourage, no pressure to prove. He performed like a man who had made peace with himself. Every lyric delivered carried the weight of experience. Every smile came from gratitude, not success.
Yeah, TS5 is the name of my apartment that I bought in Miami 6 years ago.
Okay.
It grew from my friends, like I was playing the music, so I was in control. Next thing everyone's like, oh, you got to get a microphone. So I put a microphone. Then they're like, oh, you got to sing one of your tunes. And I was starting to freestyle and sing over other people's songs. And then I started to introduce my own stuff into the mix. Then I put it up on SoundCloud, and then it got picked up by radio stations in the UK.
Wow.
And now in Australia and in New Zealand. And it started this, what is this TS5? It was like an hour of my set. And then I ended up doing my first show in the UK, which was like 250 people. And then a few months later, we were up to like 750. Then we were up to 1,500. Then we did like a few shows later, we're at 5,000. And then right up to where we are now, 17,000 people.
Act 5, the return. By the time he walked back onto British stages, something had changed in the crowd too. There was love again. Not nostalgia, but respect. Fans old enough to remember the year 2000 stood beside teenagers who only knew the comeback. Together, they all sang 7 Days like it was brand new. He spoke openly about faith, about mental health, about the cost of being misunderstood. He told audiences that forgiveness isn't about excusing the past, it's about freeing yourselves from it. In 2021, he received an MBE for services to music and to charity. He accepted it quietly, the same way he'd once accepted criticism, with humility. Now he mentors new artists. He tells them longevity comes from character, not chart positions. He reminds them that the crowd's volume is never a measure of your worth. He tells them you can lose everything the world gives you and still keep everything that matters. Act 6, legacy. Today, Craig David stands as living proof that reinvention doesn't always mean becoming someone new. Sometimes it means returning to who you were before the noise began.
Do you know what? It's through knowing that I get to live my dream through my music, and I get to give that experience to people when as I said, doing live shows.
His story mirrors the rhythm of the music he loves, beat that drops, breaks, and rises again, stronger than before. He's become more than a singer. He's a reminder of grace under fire, of quiet strength, of what happens when you refuse to let bitterness define your legacy. Southampton to superstardom. Superstardom to silence, silence to salvation. It's a circle that few people complete and keep their dignity intact. He did. Closing reflection. If you listen closely, you can still hear that same voice that once echoed through youth clubs, park radio stations, wiser now, warmer, carrying the same truth it always did. That music is a connection. Connection is everything. Craig David, the boy who sang about 7 days, the man who took years to find himself again, he rose. He fell. He rose again. Not because the world remembered him, but because he never forgot who he was. And through it all, the beat never stopped. Thank you so much for tuning in to the rise, the fall, and the rewind and come again of Craig David. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, if you love Craig David, make sure you drop us a comment below. Respect Craig David. That's all you got to do. If you want to like it, if you want to subscribe, then that'd be absolutely amazing. But it's more about hearing what you think about Craig David and his amazing career. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the other side.